Joining us on Air Sports News, really good friend of mine, James Barrie from Drop Zone Marketing. James, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Regan. Thank you for having me. Real pleasure to be here.
Tell us what is Drop Zone Marketing, James?
Well, Drop Zone Marketing is our niche agency brand. So we're a marketing agency. To put it simply, we specialize in website design, SEO, Google Ads, social media management, copywriting, lots of copywriting, and branding, graphic design. Drop Zone Marketing is actually sort of our sub or niche brand specific to the skydiving industry under our headlining brand, which is actually Beyond Marketing. So Beyond Marketing is our agency brand that works outside of the skydiving industry, Drop Zone Marketing inside. We just celebrated our 9th year of business.
Wow, 9th year. I mean, I remember you starting this as well. And I mean, the content is fantastic. It's good content. It's always heartfelt content. It's never just kind of blah, 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 marketing. It's really, you really touch on the emotion and the heart of what we do.
Thank you. I think I've got a lot of empathy. You know, I have a lot of empathy for our primary audience of who we work with the most is Drop Zone managers and owners. And this is a really hard business. And, I went through a lot of highs and lows as a Drop Zone manager across 9 years. And, it's just tough. It's tough on you physically, it's tough on you emotionally. And whenever I write anything, I try to provide value for our skydiving professionals at large. And it is heartfelt because I know what everyone's going through. Not that it's like anyone's saying, oh, woe's me, poor me, what have you. But no, this business takes a toll on you. There's no question about it. And I like to talk about it.
And that's where we met. You were managing down in South Carolina. Tell me about your little story from there.
My journey into the skydiving industry is really strange. You know, as you know, your audience may not know, I'm originally from the Caribbean island of Antigua. Raised there, actually born in England, but never really lived a day in England, being my mother's British. But I came to the US for school, and I came to school via a golf scholarship. So I was very involved in golf. I started playing golf at the age of 7 in Antigua. I was one of only 3 junior golfers in the entire country, showed some promise, for me, coming from the Caribbean, coming to America was like coming to the promised land. It was such anyone that was able to end up in America because of the opportunities was so lucky. And I can say in retrospect, now that I've been in the US for, about 25 years, I have been able to live my passions. So when I graduated college, I became a golf professional. Played a little bit, but not enough to make it, at the top level. But so I became a club professional. Yeah. And one day while I was giving golf lessons on the driving range, because we had lights, I was getting ready to go home, and there was I will never forget it. There was an old Astro van, a Chevy Astro van, white, sitting in the car park. And along the side of the van emblazoned was Skydive Carolina Parachute Center. And I was like, I remember a childhood friend who had done a skydive in Australia. And I thought, wow, she didn't seem like the bravest girl I knew. And I thought, if she could do it, I could do it. And I've always been intrigued. So I left my business card on the van and said, hey, would you leave a brochure in the pro shop? That gentleman did that, saying, I actually need golf lessons. Maybe we could do a barter trade. So I gave 2 golf lessons for 1 tandem, and this would be now back in 2002. And I made that tandem skydive, and I landed, and I knew I had to have more. And so what started that, I guess this was actually in 2000. For the next 3 years, I became very close friends with Danny Smith, who's still the Drop Zone owner at Skydive Carolina. We became close friends. We were playing golf all the time. And to make a long story short, essentially stuff started happening at the golf club. a little bit of drama and politics. And my work visa was tied to this golf club. So it wasn't like I could just say, see you later.
Yeah.
But the long and short of it is I did say see you later, and I started working at Skydive Carolina for Danny Smith. And I was loving it. I mean, that tandem skydive completely shifted the entire focus. It was a crossroads moment for my life where I was going to be a golf professional, because I love that sport and that industry. But that one skydive just completely changed the path of my life going forward. And, sort of got to Skydive Carolina going, wow, look at the opportunity here. This was, when I started there in 2003, 25 tandems was a big Saturday. And, you're looking at, you've jumped at Skydive Carolina. For those that haven't, it's 3, 5,000 foot runways that make a triangle. It's an old US Air Force sort of training place. And so the landing area is enormous. And it's just ideally suited for skydiving. So while there, I just thought, wow, look at the opportunity. But my methodology in running the drop zone, it was really coming back from being raised in the Caribbean and hospitality. So, I could wax on about that, but that was really the focus, is how can we treat people better? And maybe how can we treat people better than they're accustomed to be treating it in the industry at large, and then that's how
I'd like to talk about that a little bit, because when I first started jumping, back in the 90s, you had people barking at you and shouting. I mean, it was very military focused. It was from that military. A lot of the instructors were military, ex-military backgrounds and stuff. And there was no customer service. You were treated like dirt. And, the people have brought themselves over the last 30 years really up now to another level. Tell me about what you saw in skydiving and how it was when you first saw it. And
sure.
A little bit about that.
Yeah, I believe service is marketing. They're not mutually exclusive. And my background in the Caribbean comes from, my parents ran an eco kayaking tour. And on the island of Antigua, which is 12 miles long and 9 miles wide, with only one revenue stream, which is tourism, it's highly competitive. And so my parents were competing against 103 other businesses, all for the same customer. And yet my parents always had market share. They were always, completely sold out of capacity. And then marketing wasn't even all that great. But what I discovered was that what my parents intelligently did was they literally wrote out every single customer point of interaction. And they identified that there was like 40 points of interaction from the moment that someone lands on their website to the end of the tour. And they identified, or they basically asked this open-ended question: how do we exceed expectations at each point of interaction? Now that's really difficult, because the expectations of when you go to the Caribbean on holiday, those expectations are very high. You are not exceeding expectations by kayaking in beautiful tropical water, because that is the expectation. That's why they're there. So what I learned in observing my family is that great marketing connects here, not here. If it's connecting here, it feels like marketing. If it connects here, it does not feel like marketing. So what they did was they thought, in saying, how do we exceed expectations when expectations are already high, then we meet people at the human level here at the heart. So I took that when running a skydiving center in saying, look, we are setting the expectation or the benchmark for a great experience purely on the free fall. And hopefully, if you got a nice instructor, pretty much we hit the mark. But we're really not exceeding expectations, because when somebody pays a premium price to jump out of an airplane, the expectations are so high. So my thinking was, let me identify every customer point of interaction that happens and identify any pain points, solve pain points, but exceed expectations. I thought, if I could have people thrilled with their experience with us before they boarded the airplane, now I'm onto something, because the most powerful form of marketing ever, forever and ever and ever will be, and we're a digital agency, is word of mouth. So when I need people to talk about me online, mostly through reviews, I am being very strategic about their experience. And what I found in working in the industry, particularly in the early 2000s, was, wow, like we do, as a general whole, not a great job. Like we force people to want to fall in love with skydiving. You know, we really sort of like, you really need to love it because, you know, you're not going to be, we're going to be barking at you, you know, if you land near the runway.
Yeah.
So that methodology of hospitality married with literally, and I've said this so often, and as a reminder for our staff, is let's just take a step back and look at what we're doing here. I know that this is your home all the time in terms of day in and day out at the drop zone, but for each guest or student that comes to the drop zone, they're out of their comfort zone. And because they're out of their comfort zone, they notice everything that we've stopped noticing. They notice when things are out of place. That, you know, I think I've gotten this funny reputation as being like the bathroom guy. I'm really keen on having clean toilets or whatnot. But I thought, wow, that's a point of interaction, and they're noticing everything. They're on high alert because they're not in a place of comfort, already nervous because of what they're going to be doing. And I thought, no, we're going to take you in and make you feel part of our tribe. You know, that was key. So I feel so passionate about reminding those that work in skydiving that we don't have to do this, we get to do this. How many jobs are people working today that get to give someone an experience that they will never forget for as long as they live? What an awesome opportunity. What a great responsibility. Let's not mess that up. Let's not get so jaded because we're jumping all day long, we're so fatigued, but realizing that each individual that walks through our hangar, we get to potentially change their lives. Love that.
You know, that thought is in my head now about they see things for the first time, they notice everything, things that we might forget. For instance, you know, an overflowing trash can in the hangar, that you just accept that's how it is, and it just be because you're busy with other things, you jump in all day, and it's just always, that trash can is always overflowing a little bit, you know, it becomes part of your life. What you say for the customer, they see that and why has that not been emptied, you know, just as one example in my mind.
We're walking this balance, you know, where if we look at the origination of really skydiving becoming more of a business than just guys getting together, it's in our roots, it's in the DNA that, you know, the shut up and jump, get on the plane type of mentality, to now we're talking skydiving is a big business. We are an industry, and I know a lot of people don't like the word skydiving industry, and someone said something to me that was really hit me. They said, you know what I miss? I miss parachuting. I.e., you know, not the business of skydiving, those days where it was more club-like, but our reality is this is big business. If you look at just the aircraft that, you know, everybody wants to be jumping out of, this is serious money, and we have to think of ourselves now, you know, more big picture of this is serious money. There's expectations of what you should have when you pay 200 plus, say, US dollars for a tandem skydiving experience. You know, we can't have, you know, those old beaten up couches in the hangars anymore. It's not meeting the expectation because we're not competing against other drop zones. We're competing against every attraction.
Yeah.
You know, and here in the US, we're seeing right now a great high demand for skydiving because you know, travel is being suppressed, so we're competing against less things. So yeah, that's definitely part of the approach, is at the heart of what I believe to be good marketing for skydiving is thinking about how do I treat people better than they expect to be treated. And if I can do that, I always say, Regan, in terms of, like, let's just say that we have 5 drop zones in a market or even a region. And each drop zone has the same amount of money to spend on advertising, the same marketing budget, the same availability to staff, and the same aircraft. Who wins market share? It's the drop, all things being equal, it's the drop zone that makes people feel cared for.
Yeah. Yes.
So being nice is part of being strategic in business, you know, and it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. And it sounds simple, but it's not. It takes positive effort, isn't it, to make sure that the staff do stay on that level. And we know drop zones that are very good at that. You know, I can name Doug Smith up at CSE, for instance, as one shining example. But it takes proactive effort. You can't just, hey, everybody, let's be nice to customers, and it happens. You've got to work on that every day.
You know, Rick, I don't know how far you want me to go into this detail, but you know, when you say good service to somebody or your team, based on your background, based on your experiences, everybody's definition of what great service looks like is different.
Right.
And so one thing that I'm real keen on in working with many of our DZO clients is what your standard is in your brain, we need to get out on paper. What are your values?
Yes.
What do you stand for? Because at least if we can identify what the DZO's value, because the culture of a drop zone starts from the very top. You know, and DZ culture is a real thing. It's why we're often there, right?
Yeah.
So identifying what are the values from the very top of that DZO, because when we learn about values in business school, it often goes into a 3-ring binder that's closed and we never reference them again. But I'm very much about, let's identify your core values and make it very well known so that we're setting sort of this at least an expectation of what the DZO is wishing to see,
yeah.
Or what the ethos of that DZO is. It also gives the DZO a bit more clarity on how to hire for those values, because if you haven't identified what they are, then the mistake that we often make, because skydiving, we are in the hospitality industry, whether we choose to accept that or not, and often we're hiring more on skill than we are the overall well-rounded sort of instructor in terms of that service. And that's becoming even more of a problem because staffing is becoming such a challenging aspect, because we're seeing such high demand for skydiving, and there's really not enough staff to sustain the demand right now. So, you know, we're a little bit out of balance.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the topics of one of your latest outputs I was reading about the staffing issues right now. It's in all sorts of hospitality, but of course in skydiving and throughout air sports, it's a major problem.
Huge problem. And, you know, there's a fine balance that we're needing to address right now in skydiving, is that finally, particularly in the United States, we've been undervaluing the price of a tandem skydive.
Right.
So now that there is such high demand and a shorter supply of instructors, the prices are starting to go north, which is good. We've been needing that for a long time. But as we move north, the opportunity for those that can afford skydiving is going to go down.
Yeah.
And so we may be creating a long-term challenge for introducing more and more people to skydiving, because we really, in order for more people to get into AFF, they need to often do more than one tandem. But if we make it so unaffordable for many to even make the first tandem, then it could be that the long-term detriment is that we have less fun jumpers coming through, and as a result, maybe less instructors. So, you know, it's an exciting time. You know, people are busy.
Yes.
But it's also an interesting time as we think about our future and the long game ahead. How are we going to solve this staffing issue? Because when you're not introduced to a sport until you're 18 years of age, you know, we're already
isn't it?
We're already behind the curve.
Yeah, it really is. Now, but just that fires in my mind about the wind tunnels. I mean, we've got the champions of the tunnels now. We're all very young. You know, people are flying in the tunnels 5, 6, 7 years of age. Again, it's a high income sport. It takes a lot of disposable income to do it. But there seems to be the customer experience from the tunnels dragging the drop zones up a little bit. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's two schools of thought about indoor skydiving or wind tunnels. Some folks feel like we're losing customers because indoor skydiving is more accessible, and you know, they never make it to a drop zone. I think the opposite. I think the more people that can enjoy what it feels like to fly, that when they come of age, they may want to experience the real thing. Because certainly indoor skydiving will never give the rush that skydiving will. But to your point, the professionalism of these tunnels today, when you look at just what I call atmospherics of when you walk in, it's eye candy. And we have to make sure that we're, not that we can control that tight environment as well, but we got to be better. We have to be better.
And with you, James, what's going on in your life, and what's your aspirations coming forward? What are you up to?
I love business, Regan. The challenges of entrepreneurship. I left Skydive Carolina 9 years ago to start this marketing agency, and I don't have this figured out, but I'm loving the journey. And I almost feel like it's a sickness to that even in challenging times, my brain is always engaged. How can I create or scale our agency without losing quality? We're moving very, very slowly. So we're wanting to add team members right now. And in the same ethos of what I was sharing about core values is I don't want to just find people that are great at SEO or Google Ads. I'm looking for great people going to add to my culture and enrich our working atmosphere together. Because honestly, at the end of the day, Regan, I feel like life is super short. I was 25 years old a few minutes ago. I'm going to be 65 in a few minutes from now. And what I'm continuously thinking about is, what am I actually doing? I want to create a great business that supports its staff and supports its clients. But I'm not wanting to hustle in business to try and make as much money as I can so I can buy more stuff and then die. What I'm very focused on is, how can my business be a better community partner, whether it be in skydiving or here more locally with local business. But I want to provide values. So I'm enjoying this journey right now. We have goals set for my agency. I'm not trying to run and race to get there to say, oh, we made this much money. We're getting higher demand, but how do I meet the demand by also having quality human beings? So that's a lot of what is engaging in my time right now. And then just being more strategic in terms of, I view myself, and I say this to a lot of DZOs, to bring this context into skydiving, is as an entrepreneur, as a DZO, we have to treat ourselves like athletes. We are business athletes. And the emotional toll that business ownership takes on you, particularly skydiving ownership of a drop zone where you are on this roller coaster ride of, if there's a fatality or a very serious injury, that affects you as a human being. The pressures of how your business is represented in the media, it takes a toll on you. When we lose our friends, it takes a toll on you. When you're working 100-hour weeks, it takes a toll on you. So I'm really wanting to reframe. Like, I feel like we're all such hard workers, particularly in skydiving, that we look at vacation as a luxury. And I'm suggesting that, no, let's view ourselves as business athletes. What do athletes do? They eat well. They get enough sleep. They make sure to get time off away from their training so that they can have clarity of the big picture. Because often as entrepreneurs or DZOs, we're in the subjective, we're in the small picture.
Yes.
So really when I think of the long view, I want to continue operating my business with the same fervency and passion that I had 9 years ago. We often see in skydiving drop zone operators losing that passion, Why? Oh, because you don't get enough sleep, because you're working 100-hour weeks, because of the emotional toll of as the prop turns within the community or with injury or fatality, whatever, it takes a toll and we lose that passion. So just really trying to have enough emotional intelligence and self-awareness to be able to say, look, I'm going to go about being running my business, but taking care or having more thought of self and the fact that a lot of stuff affects you. And in order to keep the passion burning for skydiving or whatever business that you're in, that we have to operate like athletes. And that means getting time away from our business and resting and, you know, taking vacations to get away, to see the big picture. So that's what I'm going through right now, you know, is how do I be better at what I'm doing so that I can be great, you know, consistently strong for my clients and my employees.
Fantastic. James, you absolutely infuse me every time I get to spend some time with you. I know now we're not face to face, we're on through the internet, but I really enjoy your company, and it's really good to catch up with you again. James Barrie, thank you very much.
Regan, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for the enthusiasm that you bring to the sport every day. It is so refreshing. And not to wax on, but as you know, I used to run Carolina Fest, and I just felt that even with the ethos of what we talked about, I wanted Regan Tetlow there. I wanted other key people, not because of the records that they had at nationals. Who you are as a person matters more, and how you make other people feel, which you do so very well, and certainly the load organizers we brought in, matters most. Yes. It's so easy to be on the negative, right? That's the easy aspect. Life is tough, but to be able to make others, because we often, you know, we say this all the time, Regan, we never know when people come in through our DZ doors or into the hangar, we don't know what they've been through.
No.
We have no idea what sort of, I don't want to say baggage, but what is weighing them down.
Yeah.
So to be able to have somebody like yourself that lifts up in a time that we needed the most. So Regan, thank you for being a bright light in skydiving and in life. It is really noticed and appreciated.
Wow. Thank you very much for that, James. That's very humbling to hear. Very much. Thank you very much indeed. You take care, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.